Why is the UK suddenly rewriting its immigration system to look like Denmark's? Britain has always seen itself as a liberal country that welcomes newcomers. But now the government says the era of open doors is over. Denmark was probably the first country to implement very strict immigration laws in Europe. And now, 20 years after Denmark, the UK wants to copy the policies. But actually, they are not just copying it. In some areas, they are even going further. So what changed and why does the UK want to copy Danish policies? My name is Stephen Nikander Højlund and I'm a Danish political science PhD. I've followed Denmark's immigration model for years since it was implemented back in the zeros. So let me walk you through how the UK ended up importing the Danish playbook. Let's start in May 25. Prime Minister Keir Starmer published an immigration white paper called Restoring Control over the Immigration System. He promises to double the settlement period from 5 to 10 years. He tightens skilled worker visa rules and he declares that Britain's experiment with open borders has failed. This is the opening move, you could say. But why does a centre-left government suddenly talk like this?
Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders.
The answer is not immigration numbers alone. It's politics and it's about the voters. In the same month, Reform UK wins around 30% in local elections. Their campaign is very simple. Essentially, stop immigration. For Labour, that result is a warning siren. Lose control of the border narrative and you lose the voters, essentially. It has been the same realization for the Danish Social Democratic Party in years. You have to be tough on immigration to stop voters from fleeing to the extreme right. So Starmer's white paper is not just policy. It is a signal to the electorate that we are tough now and we will stand firm against immigration. Fast forward to September 25, Labour holds its annual conference in Liverpool. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood takes the stage. She says she will do whatever it takes to secure Britain's borders. She announces stricter rules for indefinite leave to remain, higher English skill requirements, clean criminal records, and proof of stable employment. And this is where it starts looking familiar to you if you are from Denmark. Because behind the scenes, the Home Office has looked to Denmark for inspiration. In October 25, senior Home Office officials travel to Copenhagen. Their mission is to study Denmark's immigration system. Denmark is often described as having Europe's toughest framework for immigration, and that includes strict asylum rules, strict family reunification rules, and strict welfare access for newcomers. Officials focus in particular on family reunification. In Denmark, both partners must be at least 24 years old, they must pass Danish language tests, and they must not have claimed benefits for 3 years. On top of that, there is even a requirement that a couple needs to have a combined affiliation to Denmark that is higher than to any other country. In practice, that means that if you are of Pakistani roots and wants a Pakistani bride or groom from Pakistan, someone who has zero connection to Denmark, your combined affiliation to Denmark, so to speak, is then less than 50% because you, even though you were born here, might have gone to school in Pakistan sometimes or going to summer holidays in Pakistan, and therefore the assessment from the authorities is that you are not 100% Danish. This is not just about bureaucracy, it is designed to reduce new arrivals essentially. It's designed to spread the word that Denmark is hard to try, better to find another place to settle in. But does it really work, this scare tactics? We will come back to that a little bit later. First, let's go back to the UK, where in November 25, Sky News reports that the UK is studying Denmark's border and asylum policies.
In Denmark, even successful asylum seekers don't get permanent residence rights. They're only given temporary leave to remain for as long as their home countries remain dangerous.
International media follow. Al Jazeera calls Denmark's system controversial. They highlight the so-called ghetto laws, rules that target neighborhoods with high non-Western immigrant populations. The BBC then reports something even more dramatic. The era of permanent refugee protection in the UK may soon be over. Britain is moving towards temporary protection instead. just like Denmark. At this point in time, the policy direction is very clear. The UK is not tweaking its system, it's restructuring it altogether. On November 17th, 25, Shabana Mahmood speaks in the House of Commons. She presents a package called Restoring Order and Control, essentially asylum reform, a returns reform, and a new protection status. Refugee protection will not be temporary any longer. Every 30 months, refugees must reapply. They must prove that they still need protection, essentially. This mirrors very much the Danish model, but here comes an important contrast. Denmark requires 8 years before refugees can settle permanently in Denmark. The UK sets the bar at 20 years now, 4 times longer than before. And this is even stricter than in Denmark. This is the moment where Britain goes beyond the Danish blueprint, essentially. Next comes family reunion. Under the new system, refugees no longer have an automatic right to bring close family. Instead, family members must qualify under standard migration rules. Income thresholds of around £30,000, essentially. Language tests as well, application fees, and at the same time, the old refugee family reunion scheme is suspended. No new applications, basically a full reset of the system. This is a direct echo of Denmark's approach. Keep family reunification difficult, then you reduce incentives to migrate. Essentially, what this legislation wants to avoid is that an entire family somewhere in the world finances one person to send into the UK or to Denmark, then applying for asylum, and then eventually getting it and then bringing that family. So that's what the legislation tries to avoid. But the reform do not stop at visas. The UK plans to remove automatic housing and weekly support for asylum seekers who can work but choose not to, as well as for those who break the law. Again, this mirrors Denmark's approach. In Denmark, welfare access is tightly restricted for newcomers. The logic is simple: no generous safety net, less pull factor. Whether you agree or not to this belief drives the policy. Another Danish import is the country of origin safety assessment. In Denmark, if conditions improve back home, like for example in Syria, protection can be withdrawn. The UK now adopts the same logic. During each 30-month review, refugees must prove they still need the protection. If not, they can be returned. This is one of the most radical shifts in British asylum policy in decades. And to be frank, it has also stirred up a lot of attention in Denmark when very integrated Syrians have actually been forced sent back to Syria. Even if they were so young when they arrived in Denmark and now they speak perfect Danish, they have no real association with Syria any longer, and they have maybe taken some education in Denmark. We have seen a number of these cases where it just seems completely unfair that this individual that now has a whole life in Denmark is suddenly shipped back to a country they hardly know and where they might even still be in danger. Earlier in the video, I asked whether this actually works. Let's have a look at that. The numbers are actually striking. Denmark has reached a 40-year low in asylum applications, only 4 asylum claims per 10,000 residents. Britain has around 16 per 10,000. Denmark also removes about 95% of rejected applicants. From a purely statistical perspective, the system is effective. And that is exactly why British officials are super interested. But of course, there's also a cost. Inside the Labour Party, criticism erupts. Left-wing MPs call the reforms far right, they call them racist, and they say that they betray Labour values. This is the internal conflict that most Danish parties to the center-left, and this goes specifically for the Social Democratic Party. This is a party built on solidarity, now enforcing one of the toughest immigration systems in Europe just to stay in power, essentially. It is a political gamble that Labour has started and commenced. However, there is still one line that Britain won't cross, and that's Denmark's ghetto laws. These laws restrict public housing in areas where many Western immigrants live. They impose tougher criminal penalties in those zones. Even Shabana Mahmood admits such laws would be too liberal for Britain, and Denmark itself is under pressure on that as well. European courts have criticized these policies as ethnic discrimination. The Danish government has even dropped the word ghetto from official language. So essentially the UK is almost copying Denmark to the letter, except for the ghetto laws. But there's also a practical challenge for the UK. Denmark has a powerful digital ID system called CPR that includes strict homelessness controls and highly centralized welfare state. The UK does not have all this. Observers warn that Britain may struggle to enforce Danish-style rules at scale. Will the UK achieve Danish results, or would they create a system it cannot fully operate? Time will, of course, tell. If you found this in-depth news breakdown useful, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, take care.